haven't been here in
Where's
so
it?
long.
Downtown Santa Barbara.
I guess I have.
Oh yeah, you haven't been here in a month.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
So
I was
That's right.
like, what do you mean? I'm here.
Tyler,
all the
maybe
time.
this might be your
I've been here.
trying to find. I think maybe people you know
Three
might be
times
trying to find them.
Where's the last week of July? Okay, so it's like a Saturday then.
So, it's a bunch of drunken, people from all over the place, but,
Yeah, last general meeting was a
And-
month ago.
they have the same similar problems as we've had with classical
I
programs.
know, it's because we've been here a lot. Sounds good. Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this meeting of the Isla Vista Community Services District to order at 6:02 p.m. Alrighty, before we begin, I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded. Could we get a roll call attendance, please?
Carmichael,
Here.
Hobart,
Here.
Brent, here, Vlad,
Here.
Cephas,
Here.
Top.
Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Anaskoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. We're now going to move to the consent agenda. Do any directors have items they'd like to pull for discussion? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda? I'll make a motion. Can you hear a second?
Second.
All righty, we get a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed and abstain? Alrighty, ayes have it, consent agenda passes. Now is the time for public comment on matters that are not on tonight's agenda. If you have a comment on a later agenda item, we will take those comments later in the evening. Do we have any public comments? Yes.
I saw the gnarliest scooter versus bike crash today on the corner of Pardal and Barkville, Del Mar. It was a Lime scooter. Guy was flying down the sidewalk, decided to use the ramp as a launch. He did a terrible job. It was a 50-year BMX racer and stuff. He T-boned the bike. Actually, it was a head-on collision, completely holding the front wheel. I'm surprised the guy on the bicycle wasn't injured. I've always been pretty lenient on the scooter issue, the Lime, because I personally know the gentleman who runs that program, but I think the problem is not the Limes, the problem is lack of enforcement. That intersection, as some of you probably know, I'm working at the bike shop now in the corner at Ivy Bike Boutique. I'm a mechanic for them now. Fun things to do in my retirement. And, I get to see a lot of stuff in that corner. But today, that was the gnarliest crash I have seen. I'm surprised, and this is on concrete, not asphalt, concrete. It's that intersection where it's all. I think that more focus has to be paid on the scooter issue and the enforcement issue. Because we've gone past it, like with the parking, we've gone past education now. We need enforcement. That's the only thing that's going to get the point across. And I don't know. I don't know what could be done. Maybe a sit down with the powers that be on the scooter issue. Like I said, that one shook me today. I was ready to I have EMT training. I was ready to go to work on this guy. That's how hard the impact was. So I want to let you know that intersection is kind of a little scary.
No, thank you so much for sharing. Do we have any other public comments?
Hello, I'm an Isla Vista resident and member of the Isla Vista Street Fighter chapter. And one thing we've noticed is that the county hasn't passed a new master plan for Isla Vista in over 10 years. And the last one did not address or plan for coastal erosion. And this is an issue that the club is really concerned about, and we'd love to collaborate with IVCSD to talk to the county about updating the Iowa Vista plan to address coastal erosion and just to create a more robust policy.
Okay, thank you for sharing. We can definitely get you in contact with appropriate staff members to have you already shared information or. Okay, awesome. But after the meeting, we can all, exchange contact information. Yeah, thank you. Any other public comments?
Hello, my name is Charlotte Granger. I'm also with IV Survivor, and I think you explained that really well. But we would really value the opportunity to collaborate and work for and advocate for a new master plan. So that would be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other public comments? Do we see any on Zoom? Alrighty. Seeing no one left in person and no hands raised on Zoom, I am now closing the public comment period, moving us to discussion and action items. First up on our list, a fun one, resolution 2618, honoring the service of Caleb Valadez.
Caleb's been one of our longest employees, maybe the longest student employee we've ever had, over 3 years now. And so we have a resolution written for him, and Supervisor is Jenna. So I don't know if you want to say anything on Caleb, but I know that I see him all over IV personally outside of here, and just see him working all the time. And he's done an amazing job and really committed to the mission of what we're trying to do, just keep it clean.
Yeah, Caleb has been an extremely valuable member of my team for almost 4 years now. So we're really sad to see him go. And not only of the Isla Vista Beautiful team, but just district wide. He's very well known, and I mean, everyone wanted to see him stay in one way or another, but he's off to bigger and better things. And I just can't thank him enough for all the work that he's put in to the job that he was hired for, but also just how he's gone above and beyond and really helped to spread our message and talk about our services. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for you, Caleb. So we're really sad to see you go. Caleb came to me his freshman year, and he wore a suit during his interview. So that's why I hired him. Best decision I made. So I'll go ahead and read this resolution. Sydney really helped out with it. So this is the first resolution I read, but let's get going. So a resolution of the Board of Directors honoring the service of Caleb Valadez. Whereas Caleb Valadez has served the Isla Vista Community Services District with dedication, compassion, and excellence as the Isla Vista Beautiful team member from February 2023 to April 2026. And whereas Caleb has been one of the district's most trusted and dependable team members, consistently demonstrating reliability, ownership of his responsibilities, and a commitment to supporting the day-to-day operations of the Isla Vista Beautiful program. And whereas through his work in beautification efforts, including trash removal, graffiti abatement, maintenance, and hands-on community improvements, Caleb has contributed to a cleaner, safer, and more welcoming Isla Vista for residents and visitors alike. Whereas Caleb has built strong relationships across the district team and is respected by his colleagues for his positive attitude, collaborative spirit, and steady presence to the workplace. And whereas Caleb's institutional knowledge and years of service have provided meaningful continuity and support to the district's programs and operations. And whereas he has demonstrated adaptability as his responsibilities evolved, while continuing to contribute value to the district and its mission. And whereas Caleb's commitment to leadership and service extends beyond the district, serving as Vice President of Education for the UCSB Interfraternity Council and contributing to important campus initiatives through UCSB Care, while also preparing to begin his master's program in sociology at San Diego State University in fall 2026. And whereas Caleb's contributions have made a lasting impact on the Isla Vista community and the Isla Vista Community Services District, and his presence will be greatly missed. Now therefore, be it resolved, the Isla Vista Community Services District Board of Directors hereby expresses its sincere appreciation to Caleb Valadez for his dedicated service to Isla Vista and wishes him continued success and fulfillment in all his future endeavors. And we have this little framed that Sydney put all together for you. Photos, do we want to take a photo of him with okay.
We have a resident photographer.
Yeah. We're gonna miss you.
We are. Come back to visit.
I'll be around for the time.
Come back to visit.
Picture behind
Sorry, no, right, like, no, it's, we can get
Oh, yeah.
You guys are this a group? Oh, we're doing individual ones?
Good to have respect. Yeah, I'm gonna look at it. Good to lodge.
Oh, great. Okay.
Carrie, why don't you get up there and I'll take a picture?
We can do a staff first.
Well, yeah, do this one first.
All right, here we go. Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3. Ready, do another one. There. All right.
Okay, so where's now? I don't have my name set.
Oh, now we're switching the crowd?
Yeah, we're
Congrats.
We're bummed to lose.
You're hired. Do we need to like scooch in more?
I have family there. So. Okay, yeah, you guys might need
Do we need to scooch in more?
Do the sideways.
Okay.
Ready? 1, 2.
That's gonna be your-
Let me get another one. 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Thank
Just to make sure.
Thank you for hurrying over here.
Wait, and Caleb should have a chance to say
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the speech over there.
It better be nice.
Go their website. Yeah, I mean, all I could ever say is thank you. This is like first field job. It's a lot. But I appreciate all the time that's very devoted. And this has honestly been one of the most fun jobs, and also greatest times we started. And wish for anything better, honestly. And I don't think my experience at UCSB would be the same. I don't think that I'm the same person, I'm the same growth.
You wanted to share what your next move is?
Yeah, I'm going to San Diego for a master's in sociology.
It's really hard to get into grad school. Woo!
Yes, luckily I made a cutoff surprisingly. And I'll be there for 2 years, but then after the goal is to apply a PhD and keep going. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really happy to be considered a bigger Santa Barbara than I've been told by a lot of people. So if that's the case, then I'm hopefully excited to be home.
You're welcome to stay or go.
Yeah, I'll sit for a little bit.
Okay.
Gotta come.
Yes. And because this is a discussion item, do we have any public comment? Yes, Henry.
I've seen Caleb's work, you know, with Ivy Beautiful. As a 38-year resident of Isla Vista, to say that your work is highly appreciated. You know, you're always on top of stuff. And we've had interactions, you know, you've always been positive, laugh with good nature. We need, you know, with a platoon of you, we can solve a lot of issues.
Very true.
I'm gonna miss you. There'll be more hopefully.
I have a quick one.
Yes.
Caleb has gone above and beyond, not only on Jenna's team, but any project that I've worked on, Caleb has been an integral part of it in community engagement and outreach and tabling and event support. He truly does go above and beyond and with a smile. And if you didn't know him, you would think he's a personality hire because of how amazing he brings, how much energy he brings to any project, but he's also just incredibly talented and also aware of every single one of our programs. And if you've ever been tabling with him, then you know that he is so inspiring, and I'm gonna miss you. Thank you for everything you've done. So proud of you. That's all.
Any other on Zoom? No. Alrighty. Before we bring it into a vote, I also like to say, Caleb, please come back to visit. You always have a home here and a place to crash. My couch is very nice. You've got, you know, hotel's expensive. You have a place to crash, and if you ever want to, you know, talk about a PhD, I'd be happy to chat. But yeah, I met Caleb about a school year ago when I was tabling the beginning of the year, and I totally thought that he was a full-time staff member because you were so on top of things and knew everything about all of the programs, you know, definitely very thorough in doing your homework. And also I have to echo, if I didn't know what, you know, a fantastically hard worker you are and how dedicated you are to this team and to this community, I also would have thought that you were a personality hire because throughout the entire time of tabling, you know, I enjoyed hearing your jokes and seeing your, you know, charisma with the constituents, which is also a really big part. You know, you're doing a good job as representing the district, you know, the face of the district. So I've only known you for just a couple of months now, but please do come back to visit. Everything you've done for Isla Vista has been so appreciated. And also congratulations on getting into grad school immediately out of undergrad. That is super, super hard to do and super, super impressive. I think just a testament to your intelligence and hard work that you've seen here. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to move the resolution, but first I just want to say how awesome it's been to get to know Caleb. I got to know him also through tabling, and I have really high standards for tabling.
Mm-hmm.
I came up as like a political organizer where you don't just stand behind the table, like you got to go out and talk to people, and Caleb does that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it warmed my heart because I think that it's just really a testament to the fact that like people on our team bring that energy where we don't just want to like check the box, like we do want to go talk to people, build those relationships, and you're just so incredible at it. And you know, I know you said that San Diego has been like described you as a bigger Santa Barbara, and if that really is the case, then I know that you're going to find your Isla Vista in San Diego where you'll be making a difference for other people that we'll never get to know. But I know that those people don't even know you now, but they're really going to benefit from your warmth, from your amazingness.
Well, believe you made it.
I did make a motion.
All right.
It's the longest motion ever.
Second. Okay, we have a lot of eager, I was gonna say I'll second only if you apply to UCSD for your PhD. But with that, should we take a voice vote? Although all those in favor?
Aye.
Legally, I have to ask for all those in opposition and abstentions. Hearing none, we unanimously congratulate you on all you've done here.
Yeah, we tried.
You have to have a boiler
them, so. It'll be nice to have like other things, because right now I have like two. Kind of blank.
Yeah, alrighty, that's our most fun, that's always our most fun agenda item.
This one's fun.
This is fun, that is true, this is also very fun. So with fun on the topic, we're moving on to item 4.2, 2026 Soultopia debrief, give an update from staff and give direction.
Okay, well, Maya has an excellent presentation for you. There's so much to say. It was an excellent major success. Thank you to Maya for spearheading us to get it done, but the whole team was part of it. And, just don't let them tell you things are impossible. I guess that's the moral of the story, is if they say it's impossible, do it anyways and do it really well. So I'll turn it over to Maya. I'll share my screen.
I lost it all with the bad back, it's kind of faded, but I am wearing my Roadhouse merch I got early. So don't look at it though, because it is a little faded, but I'm still repping it.
It's cool that way.
It's cool that way, yeah, it's a retro Bantina. It's like a week old. Well, thank you for the warm welcome. I'm really excited to be talking about Soultopia today. I'll be honest, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty of all the little details today. We're going to do that in May. I'm trying to keep it as high level as possible, but also address maybe some things that you might be thinking about. So, and thank you, Allie, for putting together some of the CE data that you'll see in here as well. So let's dive right into it. We're going to go over community engagement, how amazing that's been, literally record breaking, strategy that we had, outcomes, and then improvement ideas for Soultopia too, because we already have to think about the next step. It's time to plan. So first, talking about community engagement. This has been a record-breaking moment for Isla Vista Community Services District. We had over 1.3 million views on our Instagram page in the past 30 days. That is more than we have ever had. We also grew about 1,000 new followers and 23,000 post interactions. That's likes, comments, shares, and saves. And then we've reached about 90,000 different accounts in that period, which is about 110% increase from our typical 30-day average. And 85% of those are not coming from paid ads. So typically in the past, we've gotten the most engagement on things that we pay for. I only paid for one ad this entire time because of how much traction we were just organically getting. And for me, I think that's more valuable than something that you're forced to see, the fact that people are coming out and seeking more information. And our interactive map was viewed over 35,000 times. So throughout the entire day, leading up to it, I really do feel that people were aware of where their resources were, and that is a great win for us. Moving forward to the website. So this is another good point of engagement. Beyond social media, Instagram is a great way for us to reach student community, but I also wanted to point to the website because it captures a lot bigger of a picture. So on the left, you'll see I pulled October, November as kind of a control because we didn't do a community festival this year during that time, but it's also fall, so it's still a busier time for us. Then I pulled January and February, which is typically a pretty low time for us, and then March through April to kind of show you the comparison. You'll see that October, kind of still nearing the beginning of the year, we had decent traction. That first bullet point is about almost 20,000 views on our website. January and February, we dipped a little bit, but not quite as much as we typically do, to about 19,000. And then March and April, we jumped all the way up to about 31,000 views on our website. And then I wanted to break that down on what the views per page were. And these were the three controls I chose because they were typically always within the top 5. And also our team oversees these. So I wanted to show. So October and November, you'll see that board meeting and community calendar were viewed a lot. January and February, we actually saw an increase of board meeting views from 1,700 to 2,000. So a lot more people were engaging in our board meeting content starting in January, which is also when we started talking about Soultopia. And then also a little bit of Soultopia because we had just launched some information on that page. And then you'll see March, Soultopia alone, just that website had about 16,000 views that month, with the board meetings jumping up to 2,700. So we're seeing a good increase in traction, not only from the festival website, but also to some of our other really important pages as well. And I use the community calendar as like a nice constant because we always get a lot of traction on that page because of the reservations. So it's a good thing to look at. So let's talk about strategy. Like how did we do this and why did we see the results that we did? First, we started off with direct to resident outreach. That was our town hall, our tabling, our in-person and online survey, our jobs that we put out even, our flyer distribution, and then once I had my team event leads, also the peer-to-peer organization outreach, which I think was really key to the overall events. You'll see on the right here an example of a reel that we had that talked about if you missed the town hall and you didn't get to hear about it, these are all the things that we chatted about and ways that you can get involved still. The second part of our engagement strategy was the battle of the bands and DJs. This was by far the most successful one we've had so far, with over 3,000 votes coming in from residents and 35 different participants between bands and DJs. We definitely will want to continue this online platform. It was highly voted by both residents and then also the bands really liked it too, and DJs. Next, we wanted to build some excitement and mystery. So we used some amazing local art. So all the flyers that you saw on the map that was created by Owen Place. And then also some really cool visualizers that our team helped source all of the different like vibes. I don't know a professional word to say vibes, but all of the vibes for each of the stages. And then Maya was able to create and put all of them together. And I think that built a lot of like excitement and mystery of what people can expect and what they can feel like when they're there. Then we humanized our amazing organizers. We put a face to who was actually creating and designing this event. So people saw it's not just some like, you know, mysterious people that you've never met before, but it's your neighbors, it's your friends, it's people you might recognize in the community. And then also we did some pretty strategic organization collabs, inviting organizations to be a part of the event. So either influencing what happened at the event or even helping market the event that they wanted to see. So the example that just happened to be aligned with this reel was her campus put out a really cool video of being excited about coming to this event and what they were going to wear and things like that, which I think was really key. Again, in that peer-to-peer expansion communication, humanizing the event. Tons of press. We probably had more press this year than we've ever had in the past as well, both from press interest, reaching out to us, and then also us proactively just starting those conversations as well. So that was really our way to get awareness beyond just social media, beyond just our website, beyond our typical channels, but to also really get awareness into the broader Santa Barbara community. And still keeping it local, right? So we didn't, you know, reach out to anyone from LA, people like that were picking up the story. It still stayed relatively local, which was important to us. And then memes. We've used memes every single year, and this year was no different. And that's really how we present ourselves as still culturally relevant and fun. And thank you, Ellie, for those memes as well, putting those together. I know the dark background one was like surprisingly the most successful. It's like crazy how much scaring people will do. And then next, I call it like a wristband frenzy, which was kind of what we experienced when our wristbands sold out. But basically we had a limited supply, one, because we weren't really sure what to expect. It's our first time doing it. And we really created this number based on the capacity of how many people we could safely hold at once, given our square footage. But by limiting that supply to only those people, we were, you know, creating a higher demand for them. And then we also allowed group submissions because 8,000 is a lot of people to get to individually. So we were able to reach out to groups and have groups register together. Like this is a fun thing that you can do with your friends and not alone. We saw a lot of success with that as well. Also, the exclusivity for locals really painted the picture that we wanted to paint in creating this new event, was that this is an event for locals by locals. Keep it local, right? And then it resulted in a bunch of community members wanting wristbands after they were sold out, and that really helped drive the website traffic as well. So even if you weren't able to get a wristband, you did stumble upon our website and maybe you found some more things that you weren't expecting. So that was really awesome, and I was really happy to see it. And also, you know, people who were distributing wristbands can speak to this too, but it was very surprising to me as an organizer how many people were just extremely upset and disappointed that they didn't get one. So I think that that says a lot of like where we can expand and how we can think about that in the future, but that was really cool to see. let's talk about inputs versus outputs. I'm just gonna go through this because I feel like these are some good stats, and that's just the best way to do it. So we had 12,000 people, 8,000 wristbands. We had $3,600 donated to SESA, thanks to M Special donating the beer. We only had 86 days to plan. We had 50 amazing cleanup volunteers, 45 support staff, 31 local bands and DJs, 20 community partners, 13 local vendors, 11 local businesses, 10 artists, 9 event leads, 8 safety checkpoints, 6 unique stages, only 6 medical calls, 3 full-time IVCSD staff, you know, like based on how much time we like all, you know, roughly put into it. 1 thrift market, and then 0 arrests and 0 citations within the festival footprint, which we are very, very proud of. And excited to see what that means for the future of Isla Vista. Additionally, I want to talk about what the old status quo was versus what we're seeing now. So the old status quo was over policing, which I think is something that we've talked as, you know, a team very many times, not only last year after Deltopia, the year before, but even consistently throughout the year. This is something that's not decided by us, but it is something that we hear from our community a lot. And hundreds were arrested and ticketed. I think it was about 600 almost last year. We always hear about how this event overwhelms the Santa Barbara County healthcare system and how out-of-towners don't respect our community and often trash it. So in contrast, Soultopia this year, we had 0 arrests and citations inside Soultopia. Which also meant that the Santa Barbara last year in the County Board of Supervisors meeting, which was also really cool for us to see as a team, because that's exactly what we're looking for long term. Medical emergencies decreased by 94%. That was a good one. And then just overall, a drastic reduction in waste with real-time cleanup efforts, because we had such an amazing support staff, because our event leads were keeping an eye on things, making sure everyone was staying on top of litter and picking things up, and then paired with Jenna's amazing efforts the next day. It was really great to see how clean Isla Vista was after such a big event. And then last but not least, we were able to save the music and the fun despite the ordinance that we were not in control of. So really proud of that. Let's talk about next year and improvement. So obviously we'll have more time this year. I think that's been the biggest battle that we faced this year, both with planning and outreach, was just such a small time window. I think, you know, any events of this magnitude needs at least 12 months, 6 months if you're crazy, and 2 to 3 if you're psychotic. So I'm really looking forward to having more time. And another thing, as I've like finally taken a deep breath since this festival and kind of processed everything that I witnessed and that I saw both in the event, before the event, after the event, I think one thing was made extremely clear, which is that a community festival for Isla Vista must include all communities in Isla Vista. I think this is something that Deltopia and Flowtopia never did, because they were so much focused on the student community and bringing students together, which is always something that we want to do, and we want to keep that tradition. And if us as, you know, community organizers are going to take lead an event like this, then we have to speak to the entire community. So that's all business owners, families, kids, students, the retirement community, and maybe even the broader Santa Barbara community to come in and support Isla Vista and celebrate with us. And I don't think that those two things need to be mutually exclusive. I think what I saw this weekend could very much be expanded into different zones for different age groups with different activities. And that's something I'd like to explore next year. Also, free food needs a different model. I saw those lines, they were insane, and definitely not what we were expecting when we were planning this event or putting forward. You know, we've always done free food in Little Acorn Park, longer time periods, and we saw a lot of foot traffic throughout the day, but we saw how much more foot traffic that we saw this year when there was nothing going on Del Playa. So definitely need a different model. Something that I've been thinking about is potentially collaborating with businesses to maybe offer a free sample, and then maybe some sort of special Soultopia sale item. And I think that's something that when we meet with businesses and talk to them and we plan, we'll be able to flesh out a little bit more, but it's an initial concept that I've been thinking about. Additionally, we need a consistent band and DJ payment formula based on their battle rankings, the level of establishment, and social media following. we had so many bands this year and also so many performers. Normally we have a lot of bands in the battle and then very few performers. So this was a big change for us this year. And I think once I saw that expansion, I saw a need for a lot more consistency in how we're establishing payment across all of the different stages. So that's something that I want to create next year as a more strict formula. Also, I really want a festival staff for a longer time frame. I mean, 2 to 3 months is all we had, and my 9 event leads worked their tail feathers off to pull this together. And I think they also felt that feeling of this is kind of impossible what we're doing. And it's a little overwhelming, right? And I think when we have a bigger time frame, that's something that I want to explore is how we can do maybe recruitment in the fall, planning in the winter with staff, and then execution in the spring with staff. So looking at the budget season, I just want to put that forward. And then also considering like a part-time festival coordinator that can actually be there year round, because there's a lot of outreach and things that need to happen in the summer before, you know, students come in, before things get busy again. And so that's just something else that I want us to consider. Parking and waste logistics cross-department expansion. So bringing in Jenna and her amazing team that she's been expanding into in addition to my team to start tackling more of the nuanced parts of an event of this scale, because there's so much more than just event planning and entertainment and food and production, but there's also making sure that we're using as little bit of product as possible so that we're not generating so much waste, making sure that parking and logistics are finalized and give people plenty of notice. These are all things that with a bigger team and more time we could do. And then also, last but not least, because of the numbers that we saw this year, because of our proof of concept, I really do hope to get more county agency and UCSD students, associated students involvement in addition to funding and potential funding collaboration, because we truly can't do this alone. Even with a team of, you know, what, maybe 20 or maybe 15 Isla Vista CSD staff, and even the things that we contracted out, we are still feeling pretty strapped on the day of. I mean, I know, you know, a lot of you were there helping, doing some heavy lifting, you know, throughout the entire process. So I really do want to stress that next year is inviting more people in to help physically with their hands, in addition to funding. And so that's also something that I really would like to explore and see what we can do in partnership with all of our other amazing community organizers we have. But to conclude, overall, we have a lot to be proud of. These are just some of the pictures. These are my favorite. I just piled into this area. I am super proud of the event that we put forward. Obviously, it wasn't perfect, but this is year one, and I think this helps us adjust our expectations moving forward and also just continue to build upon something. But when I was there, I saw thousands of smiling faces, people having a really fun time with their friends, and at the core, that's what we want to do, is we want to provide those spaces and make sure people can do them safely. And I'm so proud of my event leads. I see Faye, I don't know if anyone's on Zoom, but they really put their heart and soul into the design and the execution of this event. It was not an easy task, lots of hard work, late nights thinking, plotting, planning, and it really showed, I think, in the design and everything. So I couldn't be more proud of the team, of my entire team, Lavnie and Ellie as well. I know you guys both put in so much work into this to make it happen, from engagement to door-to-door outreach to buying things, which is a huge task. So to conclude, thank you for trusting us with this project, even though it sounded crazy. I'm really happy overall with everything that happened in the community on that day, and I'm just hoping that we can continue to build and make it better. And that's all.
Do we have any questions, comments from the board?
I have a number of comments, but
Okay.
no questions.
Take us away, yeah.
Oh, no, we can do that after.
Okay. Public comment?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna be all over the board on this, so bear with me. You know, leading up to the event, you know, you talk about the window, time window. As a scientist, I know for a fact that time window goes like this as a function of time. The amount of work that was put into organizing this event in that short amount of time was amazing. Seeing Rodney just not struggling, but moving diligently to get it. The happiest moment I had was running into Maya the day of sold opening. That was my happiest. She had tears of happiness. Now, with that said, it's the first time this has been done. You know, my mom, whenever I do something out of the ordinary, my mom would ask me, "Are you stupid or are you crazy?" And I would respond with crazy because that wouldn't get me a beating. But anyway, this was crazy because it's never been done before in the history of Isla Vista. Well, at least in my 38, 39-year history here. Of course, there's complaints. The first complaint was about food vendors, you know, and there was the issue with certain restaurants felt they were excluded intentionally. That wasn't the case. That window, again, the time window was going like this. Next year, my recommendation is get more local restaurants involved rather than vendors from outside of the area. That was one of the biggest complaints I heard. Why are we having vendors from outside of the area when we've got plenty of restaurants in the area? The thing about free food, there's disadvantage of that. The long lines and the strain on the businesses and the strain financially on CSD. So the idea of having coupons for, you know, free sample, then a reduced deal, that's a great way to go. Never offer a problem without a solution. Second complaint I heard, you know, was, there wasn't many complaints, but law enforcement. You know, any big event that you have a lot of people in, there's going to be law enforcement. Deal with it. I'm not pro or anti-cop. I'm a realist. Cops are a reality because people that do messed up things are a reality. And we didn't have many people doing messed up things. The main police presence was on Del Playa, which is, you know, which is what the big problem was initially. Now we had, you know, concentration on what I call Command Row, which is Trigo. They mostly stayed over there. There was patrols of 2, 3, maybe 4 at a time. But they didn't even go into the west end of the festival. They were mostly on Del Norte. And they were mostly dealing with issues like on the other blocks outside of the festival. So, you know, that complaint, I just go like, well, you know, deal with it. I mean, you know, when they have Fiesta in downtown Santa Barbara, there's just as many cops there. They even have Air One flying. Why is it any different here? You know, with that said, this was the biggest exercise in true harm reduction, because in order to have harm reduction, you have to have harm prevention. Keeping people away from cliffs, keeping people outside of dwellings where they can gather and do things like alcohol poisoning or fentanyl ODs. It's a lot more effective than handing out Narcan. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm going to say it straight up. Handing out Narcan is a reactive approach, not proactive. It's harm reaction, not reduction. Harm reduction starts with prevention. And having people in the center of town the way it was, having fun and occupied, that is true harm prevention and harm reduction. Harm reaction, we've seen what it does. Last year, was it 130 medical calls? Not medical calls, medical emergencies. How many arrests? This year, I think there were 3 arrests, but I think they were minimal. I think it might have been detention or detaining, you know. But some people need a timeout every once in a while. That's life. That's life. But there was only 3. That's an order of magnitude lower than last year. As far as medical emergencies, it was like 8 as opposed to 130 last year. This was a success. Like I said, leading up to it, seeing Rodney's hard work, amazing. Seeing Maya, that made my day. I'm so happy. So to those that, you know, they say that it was lame, I go, yeah, you know, if you're into fights and sexual assault, people falling off cliffs and balconies and ODing and stuff like that, yeah, it was lame because that didn't happen. What we did have was a fun time. I walked around for 6 hours. What did you do? I ran into all my friends. I went to the Thriftopia. I got a shirt. I saw bands. I got in the slam pit. Yeah, old guy in the slam pit. That's always comical. But you know what? I had fun. And so did 11,999 other people. I was one of the 12,000. Oh, and by the way, I didn't have a wristband. But you know what? I don't mind paying a few extra dollars for good food in Isla
Yeah, were you
Vista.
just gonna wait in line?
Oh, no, I wasn't gonna. I might die of old age. There was a lot of, another thing, there's a lot of misconceptions. People thought that you needed a wristband to get into the event. I had to clarify that, no, the wristband is for free food if you can get to it. But I wasn't kind of aware of the lines at that point. Other misconceptions were that it was a closed event. And look at IVRPD's Halloween Festival. When they first had it at Estero Park back in 2021, I saw a bunch of families from Santa Barbara, Goleta, Lompoc, and every year I keep seeing more. I saw a bunch of families with strollers running around. That was the coolest interaction of people I think I've ever seen in my 38-year tenure around this. Let's do it again. Let's make sure this time you got a bigger time window. Now you're like this, okay? So let's use that time window and make it even better than it was this year. For a first shot, that was not bad at all. Not bad at all. And if anybody has criticisms about it, maybe they're part of the problem. And that's my way of looking at it. That's a truthful Isla Vista way of looking at it. So congratulations on all of your hard work, all of you guys. Anybody has a problem with it, I just don't attend. If you're gonna be that bitter about it, there's a lot bigger things in this world to be bitter about. The community gathering by the locals for the locals, last thing you want to be bitter. And that's what it truly was. By the locals for the locals. I really appreciate every bit of work, everything. Best time ever. I got no complaints.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any on Zoom? Oh, yes.
I just want to say, I mean, I'm incredibly proud of you. I think that it went, I just can't, I don't even have words. I mean, the amount of time that you had to plan this and what an amazing event that you put on. I mean, it's just impossible for nothing at all to go wrong. That standard is not fair. I think that the credible news sources got it right and they knew what was up because they did their research. Like Henry said, there were a lot of misconceptions. That's unfortunate and out of our control, but I just see this event becoming more and more successful every year. And it will be the new norm. And like the energy that I experienced was like something I've never experienced in Isla Vista. I mean, Deltopia compared to what I experienced at Soltopia is like so dark energy. I mean, you look around and you see people having a medical emergency every which way. And it's like just the darkest energy. And Soltopia had like the most beautiful, bright energy that Isla Vista has to offer. It made me look at our downtown area and see it in a different light just because of how happy everyone was. And everyone was just having so much fun and so stoked. So I think it was just a gigantic success, no question about it. And I'm just so proud of you and happy to see that this community is getting the kind of celebration that it deserves.
I just honestly am in awe of what Maya can accomplish in such a short period of time, but also just every day Maya can accomplish just the impossible. It's been kind of a running theme this year amongst our team. And I think just the beauty that she can bring to our community is just so impactful, and I'm really grateful. And I think it's just a testament to our team as a whole. Everyone jumped in to the deep end on this project and really, wanted to see it thrive and be successful, and it did. And I'm just, because Maya was at the helm of it. So very grateful.
And I'll finish by saying, I know everyone's proud and grateful of Maya. I am too, or proud of it now. I'm grateful for Maya. I know everyone's proud. I'm grateful because we talked about this 93, 2010, 2014. every time they do the noise ordinance or the banning, it creates problems. And this time there was a noise ban and it was nothing but good. Because what we did, because of what was done, it could have gone a lot of other bad ways that we've seen. And it could have been like 20 years of wasted money and time. It could have been a riot. It could have been anything. But it was like was said, it was a bright energy day. Everybody having fun. And we set our goal at the county board meeting when we got our permit was 0 arrests and citations. That was a crazy goal to put because 0 of anything is hard. Medical will get to 0 next year. That's, it's not, you can't control everything, but we did say at our county board meeting that that was our goal. And so, we've said this, but this is our proof of concept that the CSD can do an essential job for the community. Maybe no one else could have done this. And it was said when we passed our tax, they're like, no one's gonna remember in 20 years. Probably no one will remember any of us who did this in 20 years, but I'll remember mine, and I'm grateful.
I have never seen Isla Vista like brought together for anything. And so being able to see just like people getting ready for the event, people working on it, and then people excited to go to it for the weeks prior to it was fascinating. Like the night before, we had people scalping the tickets outside of where we were celebrating. They were like, "Oh, $20, you can have a ticket. I know you didn't sign up." I'm like, "We're giving them price for free." It wasn't me. But I think with Deltopia, people are excited about the idea of what it is and less so the actuality of what occurs on the day of. And this event, the only negatives I saw about it were people mad about the idea of stopping Deltopia, but not necessarily like annoyed, besides some caught present stuff when they were walking through a lot. But like they're less annoyed of what's actually happening on Soltopia and more just annoyed that their festival got canceled. And anyone who actually gave it any effort, like I do feel like some of the people who I was like, "You're gonna hate this," actually really came out and they really enjoyed it. And so being able to see Isla Vista come together for something that's bigger than a one-off house party for the first time in my entire career here has been crazy. And so I want to thank you for letting me be part of it.
They was working till midnight on Friday.
It was 1:30 actually.
And then was up at 6 or 7.
He was the first one here. He was here before I was.
Yeah. I don't think I've been in this vicinity for the past how many months, and you weren't here. You were just like, here's Faye. Any problem?
Where I live.
Yeah.
I can't see it and everyone. I was here.
Yeah, no, we're friends.
Yeah.
You were exceptional.
Yeah, the other things, they were all-
And to them as well. They were all amazing. I wish I told them today, so it's my fault, but they were great. I'll tell them to watch. And also one more thing. You all three did so much too. I know I said my team, I want my team to make sure that I really appreciate them. But these three also did so much to help make this happen. Like Jenna was answering my panic phone calls so much. Sydney and I were basically on speed dial. The amount of work that Sydney had to do processing the paperwork to make this happen, I don't know how you did that. And then Jonathan not only pushing us to find that solution and driving the success, but also just no task was too small for him to take on and make it happen, which I think in a team as small as ours, it is so important for everyone to step up and find some way to get involved and make it happen. And I saw that across every single person here. So while I'm very happy to have helped take lead on this project, it's definitely not a solo effort. Everyone put a lot of time into this. I'm grateful. Okay, that's enough for me. So, thank you.
Righty. Any other additional public comment, either in person or on Zoom? Alrighty. Board, take it away. Yeah.
Well, I just think that it was awesome. I think that it couldn't have been better as a first time. Obviously, there's going to be hiccups, but I think that you guys are so committed to the community, and I think that the event really reflected everybody's genuine stake in it. I feel like what Jonathan said about maybe no one else could have done it. I think that just your guys' will
and dedication to get it done really showed up, like day of and just even in the weeks before that with all the social media. But yeah, I mean, I think it was great. I think that obviously the food lines are like the one thing people said, but that is to be expected. I feel like free food, yeah, it just it makes sense. Yeah, my main issues were not with the event, it was more just the police, so it's another conversation, but yeah.
I have a number of comments, but I did think of a question that I
Okay.
asked. And the question relates to our favorite subject, which has been the food, the lines, and local business. Can you talk about the process for outreach to local businesses? And I'll be transparent that I know a lot of what you're going to say already because I've already asked you this question, and I know that it is extensive. And I want to give you the opportunity to share everything you did because now I'm just verging into a comment, but I mean, most local governments, when they do outreach, do it to check a box, and they fire off an email and say, check the box and say, we're done. Talk about the level of engagement that you had and the different methods you followed.
Yes. Well, I did talk a little bit about like the broader engagement of like how to get the community involved in a lot of our public processes that we did in terms of just having the conversation. But when we specifically think about food and venue search, so when this idea first started, we wanted to host things in the biggest public spaces that we can find. We were pondering the idea of closing the streets, but really I was looking at big parking lots, big open spaces like the parks, all within the commercial district. So obviously one of the first conversations we had was with the Parks District because this is the huge green area that encompasses all of, the center core of Isla Vista. I also looked specifically at square footage because when we think about Deltopia, we think about the fact that it doesn't have the infrastructure to support the amount of people. So I literally measured exactly how much square footage was on the street of Del Playa and included like the little square footage of each of the houses and their estimated capacity in order to determine how much space we need to have in order to do it safely. So that was my first step. And so that's also why, this area was chosen. Obviously the commercial district, but also it did have the space capacity. So then I looked at all the parking lots, and that's where I started my outreach because I knew that this event needed business partnerships that had the space to hold the amount of people that we need. So Labby and I, actually, we went around, we literally looked at Isla Vista first from the top view of Google Maps to find the parking lots and the capacity estimates. And then we went to those specific businesses that we thought would be really good venues. So that was our first round of engagement, was trying to find venues and spaces to do so. We ended up getting businesses that were extremely interested. I mean, one good example is the Ivy Food Club. They were a business that we reached out to in the very beginning, and they were a venue, as you saw. They were a space that had a stage. And not all venues that we wanted to were able to become stages because not only did the business owner need to agree with it, but because of the way the outdoor festival permit is for Santa Barbara County, their landlords also had to agree with it. And that's when I learned the really beautiful discussion of liability and insurance, which I knew nothing about. I'll be honest, before I started this journey, I know that I have insurance in case, I hit my car on something, but in terms of an event insurance, that was a huge learning process that we had to do. Constant phone calls with our agents, talking back and forth with business owners, listening to their liability concerns, how we could find coverage for different areas, which was also a really big conversation. And in the end, landlords really didn't want their property being used in this capacity at all. They also didn't know what to expect. When they think a replacement of Deltopia, they think, oh, that thing on the street where everyone's going to the hospital and that, that's a nightmare for somebody to think about insurance and liability and getting sued. So I'm giving you a really long answer, but anyways, that basically meant all of the parking lots that we had originally wanted to work with essentially vanished in our ability to actually host stages in those areas. So then we had to completely pivot, because the reason we did free food in the first place was because that's a really big component of harm reduction for people who are drinking a lot. You want them to eat, you want them to drink water, you want them to take breaks and slow down. I mean, that was also our philosophy with when we provided free tacos in the park at our previous spring festivals, was because they're quick things to eat. There's plenty of vendors that do it. And also, if you're waiting in line, you're taking a break, and then you're getting free food, which you're eating, which has been something that we've done in the past. So when we got word that the venues we wanted to work with weren't able to, and we had to pivot. We had to move everything into public spaces, which meant the streets. That's when both sides of Pardal were closed. That's when Madrid officially had to be closed. And we had to think about how we can offer free food without having the same resources that we would have, but having an outdoor space. And that's when we started exploring models that we had looked to in the past, right? Then I said, okay, well, we don't have any centralized area necessarily to have free tacos again, because we're not using that park. So let's do it at the businesses. And then the venues I had already been talking to, because I was going to use their parking lot, they're like, well, wait, we still want to be involved in some way. Just because my landlord said no doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to be involved in the event. So then I wanted to extend that same offer to them as well. And that is how we had the event. And then anyone who outreached us and asked, hey, I want to be involved in Soultopia. Can I be involved in some way? We found a way to make it happen. I mean, Jonathan spoke to this. Week of, day of, if people came to us, we figured out a way to try and get them involved. And that was that. In addition, I will add, when we did our outreach, we also did drop off packets with very specific information about what it meant to be a partner for us. And those were given to the places that we thought would be good venues, because that was a much bigger ask of somebody than the free food that eventually came afterwards. I gave you a really long-winded answer.
No, that's a good answer.
Okay. Sorry.
There was the town hall that some businesses came to.
Yes.
That was one way. There was a survey form
Mm-hmm.
that had an Instagram reel with 10,000 views on it. So half the town saw it. And there was lots of talk, and it was in the News Hawk, and Santa Barbara Independent published our link to get involved. So usually, I mean, the legal notices from government is to usually publish in the newspaper for official things, like an appointment of a board member. It's like the highest order thing you can do. So we did newspaper, social media, our website, in-person opportunity, packets, open public process.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate the thoroughness. I think because it speaks to something that I think people need to understand, which is that this wasn't like an afterthought part of your planning process. This was a day one part of the planning process, from thinking about where things would happen to the town hall. I mean, I don't think it's that I've ever heard of a local government agency that will canvass a business because they want to give it free money. I've only ever heard of governments canvass, going and knocking on your door, to do an inspection or a violation. But maybe that's just. And so I think it's really important that people remember that, one of the things I heard from a lot of businesses was, what is the traffic going to be like during, they were calling it Deltopia weekend. Now, I guess we need a name for it. It's just the first weekend in April. And a lot of the feedback that I heard was, well, our vendors that we buy ingredients from are telling us we probably shouldn't buy as much. And so I hesitate to add one more thing to the list. And I think this is just more about our organization's relationship with local businesses, that we want to try to help amplify those messages so that it's coming from us. People are hearing it from their vendors. People are listening, because I do feel for a business that over procured a lot of food and now has a stranded cost because those ingredients are going to go bad. But at the same time, I am like looking at all the work that you did, and it kind of flies in the face of my experience. People would not understand that something was going to be radically different this weekend because of the conversations and the town hall that the students hosted going back to November. And I think people need to remember that if we hadn't done this festival in the Loop, there would be no business. Because, well, it would look just like it looked like on Del Plata. So that's my editorial comment. And the other comment that I wanted to make is I just have so much respect for everything that the team was able to pull off, because we did not control the timeline here. We responded to the county's timeline, which happens a lot in Isla Vista, where we don't get to be in the driver's seat as far as that goes. But you were able to pull off something that was a professional quality production, much more professional and organized than any Deltopia that I ever attended. And I did attend every single Deltopia when I was a student and enjoyed every single one of them for their own reasons. But I enjoyed this so much more now, you know, as a Isla Vista old person. And I can't agree more with the I can't agree more with the statement that, like, the best way to describe it is just unusual. Like, it was like nothing that I had experienced in Isla Vista, because usually it's either on the spectrum of, like, you know, Ranger party to just like some lame thing that adults are trying to put on for students. And I think that we figured out how to say we can still have something that's fun, something that's professionally done, that people want to enjoy, where people can drink, people can have a good time, but it's not compromising our public safety system. So I know that you are going to have the natural instinct to want to try to think of all the ways that you can improve for next year. And that is a good instinct. I'm sure we'll talk about it a lot once you've thought about it more in May. But also, I don't want perfect to be the enemy of the good. We can never strive for perfection. That's an unrealistic goal. So I will kind of leave my thoughts there for now. Thank you for everything that you did. I think there's like this concept of things called hinge points, which is like a moment in history where some person's small action helped alter the course of history, like a diverging path where you took one path, you took the other. And I really think because of your work, Maya, in particular, the entire team's work, like we took a path that could have gone in a totally different direction. We know that it could have gone in a different direction because of what happened in 2014. But it's because of your work that we're in this reality and not that.
That means a lot. And I think Isla Vista, just in general, does deserve their own music festival. You know, I mean, music has been a part of our community and our culture since, I mean, at least the 60s, probably before, but that's the most notable that I've heard of. And seeing bands, you know, I'm not going to name because they're all great, but, you know, seeing some bands with a crowd of almost 800 people, I mean, it's just not something that we've been really able to provide in Isla Vista in this way before. And that in itself, I think, is just a really cool thing that we can build upon. So that was my last thing. Thank you.
Maya, may I make a recommendation for future study?
Yeah.
There's a documentary called Seen and Heard, a musical history of Isla Vista. It's on YouTube.
Oh,
It's really good.
Really, really good. It's really good.
And it covers the musical history of IV from the 1940s, 50s, I want to say, to 2005. That's what we've done. So if you want a future research material, definitely check that out. And the word seen is SEEN.
Thank you. I said that wrong. Thank you.
I would also like to congratulate you. I don't know why everybody keeps saying it's our first, though. It's the first time we called it Soultopia, but it's been some years now, and you've been there each of those years. So I feel like we've learned and grown and tried to figure this out over these years. And you have just been so brilliant at really hunkering down into the details and really analyzing what we need to do to bring it to the next level. And this year it was just an explosion. I mean, we jumped many levels ahead, and I can think that it was nothing but successful. And, you know, a lot of people were kind of lagging behind us because, you know, they saw what we'd done in the past, and, you know, they weren't prepared to take the leap with us. And you have that vision and energy to take that leap. And we went with you, and I'm so pleased with it. But it took some time. So that's why I feel like weird when people keep saying it's the first, because it's not the first. It's the most successful and a template for the future too. And I think that you had enormous obstacles to overcome. I think the park district just changed their whole rent the park bureaucracy, and they've got very detailed levels you have to go through to get a hold of a park. And the county, I was dubious we'd even be able to pull this off because they're notorious for having impenetrable bureaucracy with people who don't seem to be in their places to accept your input and your effort. So I just think it's amazing what you did. And I think it was just 100% successful. And we did used to have festivals in the 70s, spring festivals, every year. Yeah, with bands. The insurance got us from doing the skateboard contest. The insurance company wouldn't let us do it. That died along the way. But yeah, we used to do that.
We stuck a little.
Say brought it back.
Yeah. Just a little.
On the wish list for
I can give a comment now. When like throughout the planning process for this event, like I was always like, I wanted to be very optimistic, but I was like worried in the back of my mind because I just feel like that traditionally like things that are planned by adults for students typically don't always meet students' expectations. And so when I heard that there were 8,000 wristbands that were pre-sold, like I was so shocked. Like I did not think that half of those would have been passed out. Like when we were planning that, I was like, oh, that's fun. Like this is going to be it's going to be a good measure and we can plan next year. Like I envisioned Soultopia as something that we had to work up to. Like each year we would get more and more people until it would be something that could rival Deltopia. To like have 8,000 wristbands sold out a week before it started, and then to have 12,000 people, like that turnout was anything but tepid. It was amazing. And I remember hearing that the lines, like I heard from a friend, I wanted to like wake up early and go get bagels. Of course, I was a little slow getting out of bed. And then I heard from a friend that it's not worth getting bagels because the lines are too long. And I was just like, that didn't disappoint me. That made me more excited. Like, I think that having long lines is one of the best problems you can have because it indicates that you have like succeeded in grabbing people's attention and making people excited to do the event. And I think the other major complaint coming from the police presence just stems from people not reading the posts, not understanding that IVCSD has no control over that. Because that was kind of frustrating to see people complain about that and complain about other things that you obviously tried to work on, but couldn't do for reasons outside of your control. And so I think that for everything that was possible, like you exceeded everything and it was amazing. And I can't wait to see what it's going to be like next year. Yeah.
Yeah, I was really like a little apprehensive just because most of my friends and most of the people I was talking to like did not know a thing about it. Like, but then the week leading up to it, like everyone I knew was talking about it and everyone was so excited and everyone had such great feedback too. Like, cause I was like, wait, be 100% critical, like just be mean, I don't care. Like, I want to know what people thought. And like, everyone was like, it's not Deltopia. We're sad we don't have Deltopia just because that was like, we could do whatever the hell we wanted. And like, obviously you can't do that. And like, this was the best of a really bad situation. And it's like kind of incredible it came together. And like, it seemed so impossible when we were first talking about it. And so the fact that like it even existed was really cool. And I also thought it was really cool that we like made sure to include DJs and like the Battle of the Bands too, because I feel like that was such a big part of Deltopia. Like there wasn't really bands, and so keeping that spirit alive was really important. But yeah, I mean, everyone had the same complaints, and all the complaints were so out of our control. So it's like, what do you want? But yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll add one thing to that though. I mean, like I heard some awesome feedback today during public comment, but I didn't really hear any. And I have not gotten a single complaint in my email inbox about it. So people are always going to have feedback. That's fine.
I'll add something. I think the diversity of the music was a really, really great thing and definitely something to keep in mind, like as you're begin planning next year, because I feel like the one thing that I haven't always loved about like, I don't know, like not to throwing shade, like extravaganza is it's like a lot of the same kind of music or it's a lot of DJing, and I really like that there were so many different options of places you could go, and it wasn't like, oh, there's one stage and like eventually someone you're interested in hearing play will be there. It was like different areas and you got to pick what was right for you. And I think that was really great. And then also just the decorations, like I don't remember what it's called.
The shade structures.
Yeah, those were so cute. I feel like I saw so many people taking photos at those and really liked them. So that was just another positive thing that I wanted to mention for next year planning and everything.
Thank you, and shout out to Flying Shade Event Rentals. They did an amazing job on those shade structures. They were beautiful. There was a moment where we didn't even think we are gonna be able to afford them, and then boom, there they were. So I'm really glad. And thank you for acknowledging those different zones. The event leads, they taught me a lot about what's in Isla Vista. I'll be honest, I don't go around Isla Vista band shows anymore. I know it was cool when I was in school. But I mean, it's awesome to hear what is happening and that there are so many diverse areas. So I'm glad that you noticed that. Thank you.
You know, I'll add that we made a Instagram post last week asking for feedback. Like we said, hey, we know it wasn't perfect. Tell us what you want. Maybe there's one or two negative, like not even negative, productive comments. Like people had productive feedback. The rest were, yeah, this was great. And like one of the most engaging posts too. And this was a debrief post, not even about what your wristband does or how to get a wristband. This was just what happened. It performed better than most of the other posts. So that was all. We were asking already the community for feedback, and we're getting positive right now.
May I add something to what you said about extravaganza? Is that okay?
Yeah, briefly.
One of the things I've always said, the problem has always been out of towners. Extravaganza was ruined by out of towners. There used to be a regular Ivy resident like myself, but no longer a UCSB student, and could go into extravaganza and watch bands or whatever. I can't do that anymore because out of towners ruined that. You know, I've always said the lowest common denominator, all the problems, Halloween, Lotopia, Deltopia, extravaganza, it's always been that one particular aspect out of town. Extravaganza used to be a community event. This is our new extravaganza right now. Thank you for bringing that up because, you know, it just made me think about it for a second.
Wait, I have another question. So, like, outside of the money that AS donated, what was like the collaboration level? Like, what did that look like? Oh,
No. That's a really good question.
We had an MOU with AS that it was a funding only.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that looks good. Because like I
They
saw
shared some
them-
of our Instagram posts.
Wait, what?
They did some collab shares on Instagram.
But yeah.
I have a question, not about Utopia, just in general. Will we have the opportunity for the police to come in and speak at all about outside of the event? Because I know last year it was like they came in and talked and debriefed. Because yeah, I have a lot of things to say on that, but not on this.
Yeah, no, so we'll take the first shot at Ivy Safe, and then we'll bring them to the debrief from that at May. Yeah. So then, yeah, we're gonna get their, you know, presentation.
Kind of jumping off that, I will make one comment about the law enforcement presence as it relates to our actual event footprint, which was minimal. I went up and said hi to the 4 police officers that were like staffing the table. But I thought that the presence of the Guardians was just so incredible.
Yes.
I think that their experience as a security company that is experienced with working festivals and understands harm reduction, understands how to work with young people in a non-enforcement sort of way was really critical. And I know that we've used them as a vendor in the past and they've been awesome partners in the past, but I just really feel that the level of scale that this event provided like really allowed that to shine as a model for for the future, and it should be considered for things that are not just this festival, but should be considered on, is this a better way? Because I mean, frankly, the health outcomes that we saw at Soultopia were a lot better than any event that I've seen where it has been much more enforcement focused. And so if we know that there's not a connection between enforcement and health outcomes in the same way that maybe some would suggest, then I think people really need to look at the Guardians as a model. And I hope that we can maybe just do something. I'm looking at myself now in terms of like honoring them for the work that they do, not just at Soultopia, but for the community at large. The last thing I'll say is that last year I received a number of complaints during the Deltopia event from young women that were saying, I was told by this officer that gave me a citation that law enforcement is specifically going after women on the idea that if we arrest and cite all the girls, then they won't be able to get too drunk because they'll be in our custody and then they won't be able to hurt themselves or other people. It's a crazy victim blaming mentality. And the sheriff's office, though they publicly walked back, was pursuing that strategy. I think that what we saw from the interplay between the 4 deputies that were there in the footprint was absolutely night and day from what I saw last year. I was extremely worried, concerned, and had so much heartburn, had to talk to so many people last year that had gone through the criminal justice system process through no fault of their own in many cases. And even though the district attorney ends up dropping all those charges, which I think is awesome that they do that, it is such a traumatic experience that too many people in our community have to go through. And to see the stats, to know that was just non-existent within our festival footprint really made me, it made me feel really good. I also have a lot of thoughts, as I think Director does, about the presence outside. And we'll be discussing that.
Yes, echoing everything about the Guardians team. They were absolutely incredible. Even beyond their job description, like we were trying to heavy lift some things you see out there, and I was like, please help us, we can't do this in a heartbeat. But anyways, their team is incredible, and I think that their approach to harm reduction is essential in our future events, beyond our events. And I think their entire team was on the same page, which, to have 70 security of varying levels all be on the same page and in agreement of what needs to happen is a very hard thing to do. And they did it seamlessly, and I can't speak high enough, whatever.
They did say to me that they were personally honored to be part of the event because they believed in the event. They believed in the approach and what we were doing. So at the end of the day, they were telling us that they felt honored to have been chosen.
Any other board? All right, I guess that leaves me. I'll try to be brief, as no one in my department will believe me. But I've heard a lot about, wow, the event was so successful, and I was really surprised and nervous. Now, granted, I have always been someone who has believed in the impossible, but I wasn't nervous ahead of time. Like, I was like, no, I'm confident with everyone on staff. Like, I know all you guys. I know you guys are doing fantastic work. And I know you can pull this off. It's going to be a great event. So I was very pleasantly not surprised throughout the day. But also, I know Isla Vista. Not only you, Maya, and the rest of the team could pull it off. I knew it, was confident in it. But I also knew that IV could pull this off. We've heard a lot in the past, however many months about, the spirit of Isla Vista, the spirit of Deltopia, and all of these things, and, what is the town. But seeing a community festival, celebrating our local culture and our art and music, and seeing all of it come together, a huge, wildly successful festival with so many people all together in one school quarter under crazy deadlines, the first time anything of this scale, has occurred. I was like, yeah, that's what Isla Vista does. You know, we do like, I'd like to say, you know, this is the most unusual town in America, maybe the world, right? Like, of course it would be Isla Vista that pulls off an event in what, for 3.5 months of such professional quality, you know, where the biggest complaint we have afterwards is that there was not enough of it, right? Long lines, like of all the problems to have, I think that's a pretty good problem that people really enjoyed what we were doing. So, you know, I said this like, I think in January before all of this, but Maya, you are a crazy person and I absolutely love that about you. And we can see now that you pulled this off and just like, you know, matched Isla Vista's crazy. You know, I was like, this is a quarter. I've been in the lib, you know, at 2 a.m. Like, we know how to crunch in a quarter. So yeah, this was like the most beautiful thing walking around all day long. I think I was like maybe perpetually like crying just out of like the beauty of everything, of seeing all of my friends and neighbors and having my brother walk around with the dogs and everyone be like, is that Sugar Plum? And I'm like, oh my God, my dog's a celebrity. I'm getting on a tangent. But it was such a beautiful like community event that just, I don't know, like restored my faith in the world, I guess, seeing Ivy. So congratulations. I knew you could do it and I was very pleasantly not surprised, but somehow just kind of in awe the whole day. And I hope you take a nap for like 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will try.
Yeah. All right. Any further, board? Well, with that, I believe we're giving direction to staff. Do we need a motion?
No.
All righty.
Direction. We'll come back for more.
Fantastic. All righty. Moving on to item 4.3, Ivy Safe agenda preview for the April meeting.
Okay, related. Now we have other things we can use IVC for.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Everyone.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So Ivy Safe, we have 2 items, but we actually probably have time for one more. So if you guys want to insist on one, we can add it to the agenda. And I say insist in a good way because this is our forum to insist on topics for others to engage with us on. But we are going to give a debrief. You know, we'll change this. This is an old, I'll change it live. Soultopia debrief. And then we wanted to talk to the group about parking compliance because that is going to have launched by then. And we want to make sure that everybody is on the same page with how to work with us as we move forward with parking compliance. And we'll have our new team to introduce and make sure that everybody's knows each other and can work together on that. But we have time for other items. So let us know what you like. I know there's a lot of budget discussion currently on law enforcement and ID.
Yeah.
I just had a question before I get into what I was going to say, which is based on your real-time edit. So how are we like talking about the difference between what's happening in the loop, which is our permitted Soultopia event, and what's happening elsewhere throughout the day? Because obviously that was the tension in this conversation that we just had too.
I mean, I think we'll have to discuss them as separate things, but in the same item because it was the same day. But we will ask, you know, there wasn't law enforcement besides the 2 sunscreen tables. There wasn't law enforcement in our footprint, so they can report on what they did and what they encountered. There are 6 arrests and the 42 citations that are outside of the festival, and they can talk about their deployment, and then we would talk about like we did today.
Okay, so I think that makes sense. It's Deltopia / Soultopia or whatever Deltopia ends up becoming in the future. But I just think that's an important distinction to make because I think people need to understand that there were really 2 things happening.
Right.
There was the police state level deployment, and then there was our event. And so I just maybe nitpicking a little bit on the language.
We can work on this, and we'll talk about the, you know, the outcomes of both. of how it went so well in our area. And yeah, we'll get into all that. I mean, the point is to talk about the day.
Mhm.
And did we meet our goals for that day? And there was one way to meet them, and then there was another way to meet them.
Yeah, I'm not cutting anyone off. It's already in here, but yeah, definitely a focus on police presence that weekend and having that distinction between, you know, what happened inside the grounds versus outside the grounds. But speaking with, you know, constituents out in the community, I just keep hearing over and over, you know, police presence. There's like, that's what I just hear from everybody all the time. There were so many cops in IV that weekend. You know, even if they were mainly congregated around DP, like just that experience of being an Isla Vistan, that weekend with so many, so many cops that weekend. So definitely having that in there. And then also looking forward of like, you know, what policing looks like in Isla Vista going forward, especially in future Soltopia / Deltopia weekends. But other than that, yeah, I think the Deltopia, Soltopia mainly focus on having parking compliance, but yeah, maybe for future agenda items, talking about the future of policing.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question. What is like the possibilities with the whole beach shutdown? Like I know that's from Photopia, but like, I mean, at this point, is there an argument that could be made that we don't need the beaches shut down? The fences were there, like, I think it was even like 2 days afterwards, and it's just really frustrating to have like a complete cutoff with beach access, and I think kind of goes against like what the coastal commission also argues as well. I don't know like how that all works, but just
County decision.
are they
So we
able
can
to
bring
like
it up.
reverse that? Like if there was
It's an
talk of it?
administrative they have where they close the beaches for the reasons they give. So
So they're not like required to do it on this day, they're choosing to, even now with the change in the scope of it. Yeah,
That would be a good one to advocate against.
yeah, I just think it's really frustrating, like not being able to access the beach, and it's not just day of, I mean, it's several days.
I got stuck on
Outlived
the
its
beach.
usefulness.
Yeah, especially if you already have an entire noise ordinance in the entire city and there's nothing to do. And like, the one thing that you can do that's relatively peaceful is go to the beach.
I think there might be fear that because there's a noise ordinance in the city, people just go to the beach and do their thing. And that I think
They could just extend the ordinance to the beach, though. I feel like that would be maybe that's a compromise.
Yeah, okay, put the police, all the excess police down on the beach.
That's
to
true.
Monitor,
yeah,
I
we
mean, yeah.
wait for a typhoon to come and then we
Yeah.
put them all on the beach.
Yeah.
Wait, was it all the way down to Sands? How far down?
It was down to.
Sands.
It was dead, it was like cause I
Yeah.
did go down to the beach in that area, but it's a far walk to get all the way down there. And it's hot. And then one of the other things, like for the specifically Deltopia debrief, that I would love for us to talk a little bit about Ivy Safe is just the horses. I think that's so frustrating to see just such a massive police presence and to see them just not cleaning up after the animals that they insist on bringing to the community. I think it's disrespectful to the community to not take care of that and to not oversee that. And I think it's been echoed so many times in the past with Deltopia, but I just think that, yeah, like that's something I'd really love for them to maybe talk about, because with the success of Soltopia and just with hopefully a new trend towards something that's safer, I don't really see the justification for having police all over Isla Vista on horseback that aren't cleaning up after themselves.
On the horseback point, I don't know if it's technically outside of our IV safe jurisdiction, but I did hear constituents wondering about like why the police horses were on UCSB campus that day, like why
they
the
were just staging.
Wait,
that.
there was also
Manzanita.
like equestrian people on horses. It wasn't always just police.
yeah,
Yeah.
like horseback riders, but there was like mounted officers.
Yeah.
I believe is the term.
Because I think they were stationed down there.
They do it every year for this
Yeah.
day or weekend, but I guess at least they were there, stationed there instead of on the fire.
Yeah.
It's every year.
Yeah, okay.
I think there was a time, right, Spencer, when they finally committed to not bring the horses, maybe 17 or 16.
Yeah, I
years.
think it was 18 19, yeah, so I think both points are very well taken. We will certainly ask about the beach access closure. I think that you make a really good point. I agree with the horses. I mean, year after year, this is a request that really associate students had taken the lead on to try to encourage them not to bring the horses. When I found out that they were going to be there this year, I requested the sheriff's office at least deal with waste, and they told me they were not able to do that. So I think that
What?
I think that at this point, I agree that there's a lot of things that are out of proportion with what we saw, but I think that one is very low hanging fruit in terms of the equestrian officers doing not necessary.
Yeah, and I think just obviously the big question to ask is what they're thinking about next year. Because everything I saw online was like, this is such a waste of money to have all these people sitting in their trucks doing nothing, vaping. Like, it was crazy. It was like so beyond crazy.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good segue because if you want to talk, Catherine, a little bit about the letter that you sent, because there's this other thing going on with the county budget process where the sheriff is proposing a cut and then proposing to reverse the cut. And then we've made some arguments about stranded or avoiding costs in the future. What you're referring to.
Yeah. Thank you, Spencer. No, Spencer and I had sent a letter to the Board of Supervisors because it is budget season, as everyone wasn't already aware, and the county is dealing with for their 2026, 2027 budget, some difficult budget decisions and thinking of potentially having to make cuts and stuff. So we had sent them a letter, kind of inviting the possibility of, hey, let's do more with less. We saw from this past weekend and from constituent feedback that the level of police presence we saw this past weekend was mismatched with the level of activity going on, and we also saw that in the data with how many emergencies we had, that there's a bit of a mismatch and some inefficiencies, right, in terms of how money is being spent, and seeing instead that, hey, instead of spending all of this money on police presence, which hasn't had a dramatic impact on people's partying behavior for Deltopian Halloween weekends in the past, if we can instead shift the money towards harm reduction strategy that we just this past weekend prove that that it works, right, for Soultopia going forward. How can we look at harm reduction with community festivals instead of increased police presence that we've just seen for decades and more having the same results? This past weekend, our first Soultopia, first spring festival of an event this size, we had unbelievable numbers of what, a 90-something% reduction in medical calls, like 90-something or 80-something% reduction in citations and arrests. So Spencer, if you wanted to speak on it any more, any details that I'm forgetting, but we have here an opportunity where, hey, we have a version of harm reduction and public safety that is significantly cheaper and significantly more effective and more popular with the community. So at least from my perspective, kind of a no-brainer. Spencer, if you had any.
No notes. The only thing I would add is that I gave Supervisor Capps a call a couple hours ago, and we talked about the letter that Catherine and I wrote, and I gave her a heads up that we're not going to be asking for the county to restore the cut, and that we're giving this sort of alternative framework. And one of the things that she requested that I think we can treat as a county request on the IV Safe agenda is a discussion about the law enforcement structure and staffing levels in Isla Vista going forward. And I think that while that feels like a really hefty conversation to have at IV Safe, I think it might be a good chance for us to get the conversation started. It's clear that the county does not, is number one, both in a really tough budget year, but also that 11 of the 12 positions that the sheriff is saying that they're cutting from Isla Vista are not currently filled. They're vacant positions. And so it's kind of more of a cut on paper.
Yeah.
This really more just like emphasizes the need for us to figure out what's actually going on when it comes to the staffing levels of law enforcement. Why is there such a drastic difference between a weekend like we saw 2 weekends ago and regular hours? And so we're trying to get to the bottom of it and continue to report back.
Yeah, definitely, introduce a little bit more sunlight into the process. And, you had said something, I know it's not technically about the Deltopia Soultopia weekend, but I really think that, this is hopefully the beginning of a new era of, public safety and IV that is churning away from police measures and towards, community safety approaches like we saw 2 weekends ago with Soultopia. But, the past decade, violent and property crimes in IV have fallen by 48%, right, in the past decade, maybe 9 years.
Even longer in the past decade, 48% just since we came into existence.
Right, so even more in the past decade. So, we're seeing here that, not only, hey, Isla Vista is capable of governing ourselves, but we can actually do a pretty good job at it. We can actually, achieve our goals with significantly fewer resources. So, we're inviting the county into this new era of public safety that is more community driven, more cost effective, and puts up better numbers. The other?
I mean, I think that the IV Foot Patrol is definitely important to Isla Vista and should be maintained somewhat. I think that obviously the numbers on that weekend were just not necessary, and hopefully they can adjust that going forward if they're having budget issues as well. I think it makes sense to reduce the amount of police they're paying for on a day like that. But yeah, there is a lot of great work that is done, and I hope that maybe when they're sorting out their budget things, they can consider that.
Just kind of as a, like, piggybacking off that, Jonathan, do we know what the total number is that was spent on law enforcement in Deltopia, or is that the number we can request?
It'll come up in 2 weeks after the county runs payroll and codes all their accounting. And last year was like $600,000 for the same deployment.
Yeah, because I know, like, we may have heard some numbers that refer just to overtime, but then there's also the non-overtime salaries. There's the mutual aid deployment.
Wait, question. So what was it about the overtime? Like they're getting people to come from outside of their district, and because they're like moving and it's on the weekend, they're getting paid overtime? Was that the whole?
That's called mutual aid. So
Okay.
if there's people that are not sheriff's office or regular UCPD employees, those are people that are being called in on mutual aid. And then people that are sheriff's office or UC employees, like if they're working more than a certain amount that they get paid.
Okay.
I just wonder, like, if even there's the opportunity next year, I don't know how, like, those kinds of things work, but to send police officers home if they're not needed. I feel like, I don't know if that works, like, oh, they can be on call or something, because I know their justification this year was that, oh, we don't know what's gonna happen in the first year after this ordinance passes, we need to have all these people here, but then you just have, I mean, so many people sitting around being paid to not necessarily do anything, which is great that they didn't need to do anything. Like, that's awesome that the event was so successful, but it just feels like a waste of resources. And I think, yeah, I don't know if that's like an option.
In previous years, they did utilize what's called standby, which is where they don't necessarily call people in the first place, but if they feel that it was too busy, then they would call those people in and they would report to order.
I mean, that just seems like such a better alternative considering the success of the event. I know you said that the sheriff verbally committed to reducing presence, but I mean, yeah, I think that would be a good thing to discuss.
Yeah, and I wonder if what comes out of the discussion, I'm just speculating on what we'll talk about at IV Safe, is more of a formal request from this body as it relates to what the levels of deployment look like. And I think that we would be well positioned to make a request like that because of the success that we saw at Soultopia, where we were able to match, we were able to really right size the level of enforcement that we need, the level of security that we need, and match those two together. I just see us as really having a strong argument for doing that for the rest of town, especially given the drastically lower levels of things that they needed to handle.
And I would think that they would be very happy to do that, really. I mean, this was kind of a transitional year in their mind, and they were loaded for bear, as they say, and that it was more than they need, but they don't want to spend all that money. So, the fact that we are committed to providing this kind of security and this kind of an entertainment into the future, I think we have really good standing to request that they back off, and I don't know why they wouldn't.
With the caution of not sounding reckless, I think having that lower policing request will actually be positive to your overall outcomes because you have people understand. Like, police does not reduce outcomes, like fundamentally in Isla Vista. And by having people in like a more, I guess, feeling more welcome in their situation, I think it does bring a lot of aid to this event. I think a lot of the pushback was people walking, the police were walking from their stations on Trigo and Del Playa. They walked past the Madrid stage and past like the down Montevideo Del, and that a lot of people thought were roaming police in the event, and then that caused a lot of backlash.
Yeah, that was something I noticed. Like they would cross through, and it was like a group of like 15 officers, and it's like that kind of goes against the request to have them not be within the festival grounds. I think that's something we could probably emphasize.
Yeah, Jonathan, can you speak to that and how we handled?
Yeah, so there was a time, so there were a lot of officers walking from like Trigo and DP north on Del Norte, mainly, and a lot of them were going to get food, and because there was a food station at the church on Cordova. So we did call Commander Schmidt, me and Captain and Spencer midday and asked to reroute people down this UCSB sidewalk path instead of through the festival in the middle. But there were also some officers, like Maya met some who were, going to some of the restaurants and picking up food too. But we did ask that they walk the other way down Cordova or to Cordova.
Any further board comment questions?
So just to make sure it gets on there, I think the request from the county is a discussion about law enforcement, staffing, and funding in Iowa Vista.
Yeah, we'll work out the description.
Okay, but we have space to add that to the agenda.
Yeah, we can reduce the time on parking. We actually have more time that's unallocated yet, so we still have 30 minutes to allocate. So we could have just ended early, so we have time.
Any further board? Alrighty. With that, staff as direction can move on to item 4.4, internal operations annual reports.
And
All right.
Sydney, second one of these.
Okay, so I'm just gonna briefly talk about our board goals, review those a bit, talk a bit about our spending, some staff time breakdown, and what we're kind of looking ahead of the report. So looking at this dashboard, we have roughly 600,000 dedicated to operations in this budget. The 38,000 of our annual fees is rolled into that, but I pulled it out, which you'll see later. Of our 7 goals, we've completed 2, 5 are in progress. Our staff capacity kind of breaks down to roughly 50% ops and management, 25% accounting, and 25% program eval and external relations. The key outcomes break down each of those 7 goals and kind of where we're at with each of them. So this is just a snapshot, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But revenue options are underway. Our interagency coordination has been strengthened. Our governance study is also underway. The compost evaluation has been completed, and we have initiated our utility user tax audit. Facility opportunities have been identified, and our program dashboards are complete. And then I'll talk a little bit more about our public dashboard that's happening soon. A couple key risks that we identified within our operations structure. We have a pretty small team. This budget just includes mine and Jonathan's positions. So we're pretty limited in terms of like cross coverage for some of our critical functions like finance. This year is the first time that we are working in Workday. I think it's safe to say that I might be an expert in Workday at this point, but that doesn't mean that all of our team members are. And so that's just something to consider in terms of like our finance and operations. And there's been a huge learning curve with Workday as well. So, and then we rely a lot on external agencies, which impacts a lot of our timelines and implementing new things in our service delivery. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. As far as our operational goals, our board goals for this fiscal year, we focused a lot on strengthening our long-term sustainability, improving some internal ops, and then preparing for future growth. So looking at the first goal in terms of revenue strategy, we've explored new revenue options, which we brought that initial conversation to the board at a previous meeting, and we're continuing that at the finance committee meetings. We are strengthening our relationships with partner agencies. That's been a top priority, and it continues to be a goal that we're always working on and continuing to work on. So we're leaving that in progress. And then our cityhood study is in full effect. So we're actively exploring those long-term governance structures. So that also remains in progress and not completed yet. In terms of program evaluation for our compost collective, this is complete. It's been rolled into our Public Works and Sustainability Department, and Jenna oversees it now. For community facilities, Carrie continues to meet with Laura on this topic about our interests, and we're continuing those conversations about facilities. The utility user tax audit is also done. I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
Couldn't get as far as we would have liked because of privacy concerns and the nature of the data. We could not glean much from it. So it might be something we need to either hire more expertise to look at, or there was no way to know. The goal was to know, are we capturing all the taxes in IV? The data we got, there was no way to do that. We could have done other things with that data, but not that.
And then for our data transparency goal, so we've been working internally with Erica. She's our fabulous data intern. She's created dashboards across all of our programs that align directly with our strategic plan. We have KPIs for each of those programs that now you can see on our data tracking spreadsheets, like a snapshot of what those are. So that's really cool. And soon that is turning into a public facing tool that'll be on our website as well. So you can look and you can kind of drill down into each of our programs and see what we're focused on and what we're capturing in terms of data. The annual fee breakdown just kind of shows all of our fees, and they've gone up. So in comparison to last year, it's gone up about $5,800, which is just your usual annual fees increases, and then the amount of users that we may have for some of these like Zoom or Trello, those increase as well. And this is the staff time breakdown is just a bit of a drill down into mine and Jonathan's time. I talked about it, but a lot of internal operations, a lot of accounts payable on my end and payroll, special projects and program oversight for myself, and then for Jonathan, ops, a lot of team management, communication, reporting, and a lot of budget tracking. So pretty much sums it up. And I'm happy to take any questions.
My question just was a follow on the UUT audit. What sort of data did you get?
Well, first of all, it was hard to get. There was a lot of privacy concerns. So we basically got, here's how much was billed, and here's how much was remitted, which is information we kind of already had. We weren't able to get a list of addresses, for example, and each account to an address. to try to say, did we get every address? That was the goal, right? Like we wanted to make sure it's every user in Isla Vista paying the tax. So we were only really able to get like aggregate data instead of address or parcel based data.
Okay. And did they also provide, the, like kilowatt hour usage? I'm assuming this was specific to Edison.
Edison and gas.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, they didn't provide that. That wasn't in our request. Our request was more about the addresses and like customer accounts and how much they were paying. But yeah, they told us because of privacy concerns, they couldn't give that to us. But and also, yeah, then what we did get was heavily redacted and yeah, information, like I said, that we pretty much already had. So it wasn't anything unique that we were getting. Yeah, we might maybe, one next step, we could ask another city that has done it, how they made a utility tax. It's just hard. It's hard because the utility companies, it's when we were setting up the tax, they were like, are you a county or a city? And we were like, well, we're neither one, because we're the only district, special district with the utility tax. So it made it hard to figure out the borders. That's where the whole thing came from, was did the setup happen correctly? And so we think it did because we gave them information like maps and address ranges. But it's hard for us to know for sure, is the entire box paying the tax?
It just seems odd to me that we don't have a legal right to know that.
I mean, they might believe it, right? Like, yeah, I see what you're saying, but they might believe they're taxing everybody, but without us being able to double check that, there's no way for us to know that. And but if we ask them, like they asked us, why do you want to do this audit? We told them why.
Yeah. Sure.
They believe it's being done right, but we need to double check it. That's audit. That's why you audit. I mean, and we're not like doing this because we want to necessarily. I mean, we do want to, but this has been when we do our audits, when we get audited every year, this is what our auditor says, you must do this.
Yeah.
So we're going up against two of the biggest companies in California who have all their lawyers and ways of doing things, and it's us. But we do have authority, at least. I mean, we have legal backing for what we're asking for, and it was part of the tax that passed that we would have audit authority. But yeah, it's a hard
So
one.
have we ever flexed any muscle around this?
We haven't. We haven't like asserted it beyond saying like, no, like we're gonna subpoena or something higher. We did a request. We sent a letter and we had interactions and we got what we could get and looked at that.
Have we had any progress with help from our ledge offices about getting more information out of the companies?
Yeah, we can ask if they could help us with that, but yeah, it was, I mean, I had to go through a cybersecurity class and pass tests and make a cybersecurity plan just to get the gas.
Everybody does these days.
Yeah.
It's the world.
Yeah. So they're very locked down and they have a lot of steps to this.
Yeah.
Well, you certainly had more than enough stuff to do.
There were other things happening
But it does seem like at some point we need to be able to verify this.
Yeah.
I mean, years and years and years go by, right?
Yeah.
No, I agree. And
we've had issues with the tax collection. We've had lots of issues.
There you go too.
Like there have been drop-offs and they pay us back, and it happened like 3 times with Edison. 3 fiscal years. And then like we don't really know how much we made that year because they underpaid some months and then double paid other months.
Well, that seems not great. Yeah, I think this is definitely worth bringing up with one of our ledge representatives to see if they can help us out with some casework. Because I mean, I agree with you. We should be able to have access to this information, especially since, it's not like you sit around doing nothing all day, you're busy enough, don't need to be taking classes. that lead nowhere.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just a follow-up question about the process. So when a utility company bills a customer, there's a line item on the bill that says utility user tax.
Mhm.
And then that money is ostensibly collected by the utility, put into a separate account and then remitted to us.
Mhm.
So, but am I hearing what you're saying is that when we get the money remitted, we don't know what period of time that money is covering?
No, we know it's the previous month for the most part. The gas breaks it down by 3 months on a rolling basis, but everybody else is the previous months.
So let's say that I'm 3 months late on my utility bill. Are the utilities remitting us that money anyway because the tax
No,
is on
not-
the usage of the energy, or
No, that, I think Goleta Water District does that. They remit on billings, everyone else remits on actuals.
okay. So then we don't really have a clear picture of the actuals except for Goleta Water.
And they're a local special district just like us. So that's why they're the most, I mean, and Goleta West
And then
Sanitary
Goleta
District.
West, since it's what, the
Because
twice a year.
we manually operate that tax ourselves. So those two we know are pretty solid, at least. That's why we didn't audit them. Because, I mean, they could be done later. If we Goleta West, we'd be auditing ourselves. And we do it every year, like, right, we check the work every year. Goleta Water showed us the list, like, that was something they provided at the beginning. Like, here's who we're taxing. So it's just, yeah, Edison versus Goleta Water, it's very different groups.
Board on this one.
I shared this with Jonathan, but I want to say it to you, Sydney, too, because I understand you put together the presentation. I think this is really excellent. It's a great balance of our the broad goals of the department as well as the specific with the line items for specific expenses. So good job.
And I kind of hate to say it, but I think the community facility strategy has kind of hit a brick wall.
Yeah.
So I
We
don't
might
think
need
it's
to
really
change
in
this
progress
goal in the
anymore.
future now. Yeah.
Mhm. Thanks for thinking I'm being successful there, but I'm not.
Further? Well, in my out of order fashion, do we have any public comment? In person or on Zoom? No one on Zoom. Alrighty. If there's not any further board comment questions, staff has direction. We can move on to reports. Would you? Yes.
This is not really a report,
That's okay.
but my friend was singing class today and she's like, oh, I have to pay a parking ticket. I went, a parking ticket in Isla Vista, and she showed me it. It was dated to April 3rd. I don't know if we gave it out.
We did.
Those were the
But-
comps.
Oh, were they actually?
They
But
were
she
going
was
crazy.
quite
I watched them
mad
give
about
away
it.
like 80 parking tickets.
Yeah. But I still a positive, so, and she's
We
going
got
to
her
pay it,
attention.
so.
Currently, there is a car out there with a golden ticket waiting to get its
Whoa.
prize. We've been like doing the
Yeah.
fake tickets as education, and one of them has a golden sticker to make it a golden ticket.
Oh, what's the prize?
A good one.
It's groceries, right?
Is
I thought it was a $100 gift card
$100 of groceries.
Maybe I should
yeah.
just go
for a local.
He's like. It's $100 of grocery money.
That's a lot.
That's good.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For finding a golden ticket.
Alrighty. Well, do we have any other?
Oh, I have actually a report.
Wait, hold on, I have to read the thing before you say the report.
Wait.
I have to read the.
You know. like
Okay,
that,
go
yeah.
for it.
It's kind of a similar report to
Yeah.
emails. I know somebody that is using the Wave, and they are using the Wave because they have issues with their tendonitis, so they can't drive. But the Wave has been so helpful for them. in getting to their job. And it's been a great program, and I've heard a lot of good things from them about it.
It's sadly.
I know. I know, it's sadly ending, but I wanted to say that it is
Yeah.
definitely doing some good for people who, for reasons of disability, can't commute.
Well, we shouldn't declare defeat just yet.
Yeah.
Don't we have this on our agenda?
They're coming in 2 weeks, MTD, to talk to us about the wave and how it went, and we can
Okay.
talk to them about the future.
All right. I can try to have this person come in and testify.
You should.
Yeah,
We should.
absolutely.
We really should. I met with Director Deschler and our staff and UCPD about the Isla Vista Safety Station contract and the ongoing challenges that UCPD has had with recruitment and staffing. And we shared some strategies for how we might better support recruitment. And so this is a public service announcement that for UCSB students, there is recruitment going on right now for student safety partners that work at our safety stations and in other places. I also was going to share some news that the Goleta Valley Library Advisory Commission had its first meeting in about a year and a half, last Monday. And we had a good discussion about their capital campaign to raise money for the interior furnishings of the main branch library, as well as just feedback about how their temporary library, the Goleta Library Express, is going. That the location is much more accessible to Isla Vista because it's right by Goleta City Hall, right off of Hollister, only steps from the bus stop. And so that was one of the things that I had shared. And then lastly, my colleagues elected me the chair of the Library Advisory Commission for this year. So
Congratulations.
I've taken on more roles, but it feels very like an important time because of everything that's going on with their library, the changes going on with the book ban, but then also, most importantly, the funding challenges and the fact that our library system is looking at a 4% cut in revenue based on the county's budget situation. And so just been in conversations with other folks about, what our commission can do to help support that. And I guess, step one is, the strategy we put forward today, which is don't give the sheriff $2.6 million for 11 positions that are unfilled. And yeah, so anyways, I'll get off my high horse on that and my report.
Thank you. Any other director? Yes, President, your report. Suppose I was looking through my calendar and it's just Soultopia everything, but we spoke about that. Alrighty. Do we have reports from standing and ad hoc committees? I don't believe we've had any meetings.
I think our finance committee were rescheduling, right?
Oh, are we
Is it still
rescheduling?
Yeah,
next
to
week?
the 27th, 29th.
29th, I
Yeah.
believe, hopefully if everyone's free.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we move 1 week.
Yes, I'm free for that.
And I guess it's not a committee, but we do need your availabilities and thoughts on when you want to have your retreat, which we want to do maybe in later May or early June.
Not 3 days.
I was
No, of
the
course
3
not. No, it's not going to be the 3 days.
Could I have a request to exempt like busy part of the quarter, like maybe week 8, 9 through 11?
So not that time after.
That's true. No, we
Wait,
can
I
do
feel
it.
like
I will.
like early-ish May, would that not work?
We could, it would just, maybe we'll have less time to prepare things.
Oh,
But it
then-
depends on what kind of retreat you want. So we can talk about that, but it's, yeah, it depends on what you want out of the retreat. And I can have ideas too, but we've usually done them on weekends.
Okay.
But we could do, another evening, 3 hours or something instead, or Friday, like a Friday afternoon. I can email you guys about this. Just want you to put in your minds
Yeah,
that
thank
we
you.
need to start making time for a day.
I'll just share my feedback. It's not really about scheduling, but just in terms of like what I want to see out of the retreat. I think like, especially the like this board, we've all participated in like the full retreat experience. And so if we wanted to have a session that was just more like, what?
Except Catherine.
Oh,
Yeah.
what am I saying? But you're like in that.
She's in it,
yeah. I guess just my feedback was gonna be if we had just more focused topics.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just kind of feel like we're in a different place than we've been in the past where like we do have like the medium and long-term trajectory of the organization, I think pretty well under control.
Yeah.
And it's more about just honing in on specific issues. We also we had talked offline about like if we wanted to do some sort of like almost like casework type, I don't hesitate to call it training, but just like a workshop about that. I think that would be cool because I think that it's a good skill for all board members to have. And even just from the reports today, from what Edward shared and what you shared from the feedback you got, that like, I mean, it just proves like we're always doing constituent work. And there's always ways that we can learn how to like do it as best as possible, right?
Yeah. I definitely agree that for this retreat, definitely looking forward with the district. Right, you know, we've had massively successful, you know, Soultopia. We're looking forward into cityhood studies, and we're seeing, you know, I remember before it was see if anyone knows the CSD exists, but now I think, you know, we're out there. I think the community knows we exist and we're interacting a lot more, which is wonderful. So looking forward of, you know, how the board wants to interact more with the community and how we can move forward. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I think you guys should use some of your newfound people know about you to spread a lot of your other services, because no one that I know knows about any of the services you guys provide.
Yeah.
But they're really, really helpful, and they're actually great. I mean, and you know, I can only recommend. I feel like there's a good top-down way to use this knowledge of the services. Because everyone knows that you guys exist,
but what
do you do?
Yeah. Great point. Thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. Any further board requests for retreat? Or we're still brainstorming and we'll share our thoughts later. Alrighty. We want to report from district council.
Jamie is back.
Hi everyone. Yes, I am back officially. It's been a great 6 months with my baby boy. His name is Jacob. So I just wanted to say hi. I am back officially, so I will be, you know, here for the remainder of like the year. And I do just want to say a public shout out, thank you to my colleagues, Alyssa and Adrian, who were covering for me while I was away. It's not an easy task to jump in mid-year, especially with a special district like Isla Vista, where everything is so nuanced. So I just want to publicly thank them for doing a really great job covering for me. And then also thank you guys for being so patient while I was away. So I'm happy to be back.
Welcome back.
Congrats.
Yes,
Thank you.
Alrighty. Report from general manager.
Well, we pulled off Soultopia. That's the main, I mean, since the last board meeting, 1 week was executing that, 1 week was the aftermath, which there was a lot to do in the following week to put out our information and statements and respond to things. So that's done, and now we're looking forward to parking enforcement is the next challenge, and we're just waiting on receipts, or not receipts, we're waiting on the ticket paper. That is the last, it's supposed to come tomorrow, right? Tomorrow or the day after. And then on Saturday, we'll do our field training in the field to, you know, teach our folks how to write tickets and act in the field. It's not just about writing the tickets. It's like, how do you respond to issues coming at you in real time? And we should be writing tickets or warnings, depending, starting next week if all goes well.
Yeah, wonderful. Alrighty. I think we're finished out our reports. We can move into closed session. Alrighty. Thank you, everybody, for coming by.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a nice night.
Catherine, do you want me to read those out?
Read us out.
Yes.
Okay. So the board will meet in closed session on two items. Item 6.1, general manager evaluation authorized under California Government Code Section 54957B1. And also item 6.2, district council annual evaluation, similarly authorized under California Government Code Section 54957B1.
Fantastic.
Give it a second. End the live stream.